Hey folks, David Stewart here. Hope you guys are having a great day. At least a better day than the people in the games industry. Gaming industry is melting down right now. Gaming industry's cooked. And this is especially the case if you're looking at the Xbox brand, but I think there'll be some layers that are not as obvious once I start digging into this. But all the news I've been seeing the last 2 days is about studios closing, studios shutting down, studios running out of money. Let me just run through a couple of them here real quick. Luna Abyss launched on May 21st after 7 years of development, and the entire development team has reportedly been laid off. Right. Life is Strange creator Don't Nod will run out of cash this November unless new source of funding is found. Sony to lay off half of Bungie. What else? Xbox is closing down. Hellblade creator Ninja Theory, Compulsion Games, and Double Fine are also in active negotiations about spinning off. And if you want to understand what is really going on, it's mostly about business. Now, I kind of made a video a while back about the new Xbox CEO, Asha Sharma, and I was like, she's not a gamer, and how is this going to pan out? And I am going to eat some of my criticisms right now because I think she's probably, and the rest of the executive team at Xbox are probably just really cleaning house right now. Just as an example, if we're looking at Compulsion Games, they made a game called South of Midnight. First time I ever heard about it was today when someone mentioned that they had made the game. So I had never heard of the game, but it apparently won an award, as though that means something. It cost reportedly, I don't know for sure, $100 million to make, no small sum, and it has generated several $1,000,000 in revenue. Now, if you were an indie creator, if you're an indie game designer, and you have several $1,000,000 of revenue, that could be life-changing because you're a team of like 2 or 3 people, or one. But for a team that's going to spend $100 million in 5, 6, 7 years and funnel millions of dollars probably to Sweet Baby Inc., it's a Sweet Baby Inc. game, and no one buys it, what would you expect the owners of the company to do? What would you expect the executives to do? We've spent a lot of years criticizing Sony or Xbox for buying studios and then shutting them down, which is a weird thing to do, but I think in this case, one of the things that's going on is that they bought the studio, funded the studio, wrote a bunch of blank checks, gave them as much time as they wanted, and there's no money to be made, right? They're not making things that people want to play. They're not making games that gamers want to play. So if you want to return the Xbox brand to its former glory, to the glory of the 2000s, the glory of the 360 era, it's going to require you to clean house. It's going to require you to stop spending your money on things that people don't want to play and figure out how to instead divert your resources into things that are interesting and fun for gamers, rather than preachy political games and things that are art games but cost $100 million. It's different when you're making an indie game, right? If you're making an indie game, most of the risk is on the developer. You can do things that are really creative and weird, but your budget is also small. So it's high risk, very possibly high reward, but on a small scale. For $100 million, think about how many indie-sized games you could have made. You could have funded 100 studios. You could have funded 100 more independent studios to make games that people would really want to play and would spend money for. Maybe not $60 like, quote, a AAA game, but, money. You probably be doing a lot better with things. So the entire industry, I think, is headed for a big contraction. I've been predicting this for a while. It's been propped up over the last, say, 3 or 4 years by a lot of investment money. Microsoft's been buying like every studio under the sun, and it's time for those investments to start paying off or to, cut your losses. I think looking at 2020 and the pandemic, certain industries got a big boom, and they got a boom because people were at home. So they were at home to play video games. There was Nintendo Switch shortages, right? Hard to get games. Or they were spending their stimulus checks on certain things. There was like a boom in the guitar industry because musicians suddenly had $3,000 to spend on a guitar. So what did? They they bought a guitar with the money, or they bought a PS5 with their money, and they bought games, and they stayed home and they played games because they weren't allowed to go out to the bar and flush their money into their gullet with alcohol or something else. So that eventually ended, and people were able to go out again, and that little bubble created by people willing to stay home and try out different games started to collapse. And there's more to it than that. Xbox Game Pass is going to be part of that discussion. But the big one is that Xbox Game Pass is not siphoning away so many sales that you can't see that these games are not very successful. All of that investment in Hellblade 2, and it produced like a 5-hour game. Now, 5 hours can be a long entertainment experience if it's a movie, right? That's like 2 Star Wars movies. But would you pay $60 for 2 Star Wars movies? Would you pay $50 for 2 Star Wars movies? How much would you pay to see 2 Star Wars movies? Probably not that much. Okay. So if you're looking at it as like the regular thought for value for games is that you get a lot of value for your money. You get hours and hours of gameplay and fun. And for $60 or $70 now, or maybe less, $50, indie games that are $20, you get a lot of value for that $20 with most indie games, I gotta say. So to me, this is probably more cleaning house, and the opinions on this are split, with the Kotaku kind of crowd thinking this is horrible, they're shutting down the artists, and everybody else going like, oh, they're shutting down studios that were making games that nobody wanted to play because they sucked or were like preachy political things. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. More power to them. And I'm on that latter side, right? And we have to kind of be serious about here. Like, yes, I think games are art, but that doesn't mean that you can just throw infinite money at an art project. Not if you're a for-profit corporation. And this reminds me of, my time in the university system, where there was just a huge number of people that were either professors or faculty members that taught with me when I was faculty, or they were other students. And they really had this belief that the arts should be funded. Like, they should just get infinite money to make the art that they wanted to make. And nothing else really entered into that equation. It's like, well, what if nobody wants to come see the concert that you're putting on? It's like, well, the concert is about culture and it's about art. And it's like, yeah, but if nobody is seeing it, did it even exist? It's not just like profitability. You're creating a thing that no one cares about, and you're wanting them to pay money for it unwillingly through taxpayer dollars. So there's this thought that like, oh, well, these things are art, so they should just exist. Do you need to spend $100 million on that art to exist? Or could that art have existed in some other more budget-friendly way, right? As artists, as I'm an artist, you guys might be artists, we're all working within our means, whether we're solo devs or we're authors or musicians like me. We're working within what means we have to achieve what we think is possible. And there are some amazing things you can achieve on your own. No, not a AAA game. So whenever you're doing something that's a $100 million budget, you have to think about how the market is going to respond to that if you're operating for profit. It seems like the last couple of years, there's been a lot of like trying to gobble up different government grants and, diversity money and that kind of stuff to put out a game that people don't want to play. But eventually that's going to run out of fuel. You're just not going to be able to sustain that forever. You can sustain it for a while. I think a big company like Microsoft is in no danger of going broke, even though they spent a lot of money on games that aren't really successful. They have enough resources, they have enough capital to kind of weather that storm. But sooner or later, the people that are running the show and are like, well, we're running this for profit, right? I want my stock options to go up. They'd be like, you need to figure out how to make some money. And while I think there's a valid criticism on the other side, like, can't a game make a little money and not have to make infinite FIFA money? Yes, I think it's okay for a game to be profitable, but not as profitable as like FIFA or World of Warcraft or something like that. You don't have to have every game be the mega success live service game. As long as there's an audience and people are wanting to pay money for it, and you're able to have a good budget and achieve your aims, your artistic aims, and make a profit, everything should be able to exist. I'm reminded of when I'm trying to remember who bought the Dead Space. Someone bought the Dead Space studio and then like shut it down and then remade Dead Space. Really bizarre set of choices to make, but it's now it's 2026 and we're looking at games that are supposedly these art games and they're just not selling, right? And that's really my thought there. So it's a clean house kind of thing. Same thing has to happen at Sony. I think Sony is more on the kind of bleeding edge of loss leading, of losing money on really big gambles like Concord and now Marathon, and it just not really panning out for them. So you have to make some adjustments. You have to change your strategy. You have to figure out what you're doing. I think lots of us want to return to the heyday of gaming in the 2000s. That's what people want Xbox to be. They want it to be like it was in the 360 days. And there's nothing really stopping the brand from achieving that success, in my opinion, besides their approach to making games. What made the late 2000s, really the entire 2000s, the Xbox and Xbox 360 era, what made that such a great era for gaming was that the games were really fun. They were exciting, they were fun. Even if they weren't that innovative, they were doing things well. Like Call of Duty had a really good formula for those years, and people were really interested in playing it. And it's not that you have to keep doing the Call of Duty formula forever, but just making something that's really good, that's what you actually need to do. And that's where I think things have been faltering. Yeah, the graphics look better than ever, but does that translate to a fun gaming experience? And I'm reminded of that, there's a Grand Theft Auto 5, one of their splash screens. It's got the guy sitting on the bed with the controller, and he's flipping off the girl. He's got like a bong on the floor and, like a fast food cup. And that was that kind of caricature. That was the gaming culture in like 2000s. It was like the neat dude bro chill gaming experience. Get on Xbox Live, hang out with your friends, or play World of Warcraft, whatever it's going to be. And it was a great time in gaming because gaming was this escape from the real life, not the real life coming to find you in every corner of your hobby to lecture you about things that you already have to sit through training for at work or at school or something like that. It was just a great time. So people want to go back to that. They want to capture that feeling again. I think the way that you capture that feeling is you make good games. That's really what it comes down to. So I think, like any economic cycle, there's a downturn that's necessary so that you can clear out toxic assets and enable the next round of investment, just like anything else. So if you're freaking out about a game's collapse, I'm not. It's like, because I wasn't crazy about this current cycle. You want to clear out the dead weight, and then that'll free up capital for the next round of investment to see something that may be really good for the next go around. Okay. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. Leave me your thoughts down below, and I'd be happy to read them and know what you think about this. Before I go, I'm reminded that I made this video about 10 years ago called My Declining Interest in Gaming. And the general response was, oh, you're just getting old. That's true. I'm getting old. I've got more gray in my beard than I had then, and my hair, I have less of it, and it's certainly grayer than it was. But the more I talk to other people, younger people than me, they had the same opinion. I'm not as interested in gaming because games have gotten worse. They've gotten less fun. They've gotten more like products designed to take the money out of my wallet, designed to waste my time, and less like a fun, exciting experience like it was back in the day. I think even young gamers who weren't around to play games in the early 2000s, feel that those games are better. My son's, most of his favorite games are from the 2000s. So that's really saying something about the way things have changed. I know that that's an anecdote. That's like a sample of just my kids, but they end up playing games from that era and liking them more than a lot of newer games. The newer games don't hold their attention quite as long as something like, my son's playing Knights of the Old Republic. But leave me your thoughts. I'd be happy to read them, and I'll talk to you all next time. Have a great day.